Roby Price, and welcome to my workshop. Well, my ammonia has arrived. I think it's time to make a stink. Let's get that fuming tent around back. Let's get busy. It's time to fume some oak. A bathroom vanity. Part 5, time to finish. Well, we've just about gotten it. A little bit of cleanup, a lot of moving of materials, and I think we're getting close to being set up for fuming here. Now, I've got all my oak pieces here on the back side of my shop. Why the owner didn't cut a door through, I don't know, but he didn't. And I will have to have a door cut through if I want this to be a paint shop. It's just too hard to get things back here. So, we've got everything on a piece of plywood. I'm set up on triangles. The ammonia came in 2 hours ago, so we're anxious to get started. I'm going to go back and get a couple of fans because I want some circulation in this so we get good distribution of fumes. And of course, I've only got 2 pieces of my tent here. I've got 3 more to bring in. Let me get all the pieces over here and we'll touch base again and we'll show you how this is going to work. We've got 3 parts of our tent up here, and I've just got 1 clamp on there. That's just to help stabilize the unit. But some things have to take place before we put this 4th piece in, because at that point, you can't get to a lot of stuff. So, what have I done? I've got a fan right here. That is to help circulate the ammonia within the tent. I have another one down there by the door that's going to be just on the other side of the dish, a glass dish that we're going to put the ammonia in. Now, I have 5 samples down there too. That helps me understand how well this process is working and how quickly it's moving along. With this ammonia we have, it's 29% ammonia. That's heavy duty stuff. My hope is we're only in here for 48 to 72 hours. At that point, I hope I almost get full penetration within the wood. We'll see. You'll look at this. We will do this together. So the next steps are we're going to turn on our fans, and I know batteries have limited life, but that's just the way it is. We're going to get the rest of these panels up, clamp them, tape them, and then we get the ammonia ready to put in. There are a lot of clamps to put in, and we don't want to skimp. We've had a lot of wind here in the last couple of days, and I want this thing to remain stable. Now the green ones, these are for ammonia, and they're supposed to go on just like that. I've got a limited shelf life here, so I'm going to try, because I'm cheap, I'm going to put these in a plastic bag as soon as I get this done. There we go. All right. All right, I can actually hear it working. All right. All right. Believe it or not, that was that simple. Needless to say, it's been about 3 days. Well, I really don't know what I have here. This stuff, I wanted clear, but this is what they had, and it's thick, and that was important to me. But what I need to do now is start to take this thing apart, and you'll get the big reveal with me. As you would imagine, the tape is doing a very good job of holding it all together, which is what I was hoping for. That just means the seal is that much better, and it has been a good seal. I haven't had anything that would indicate that I've had a lot of leaks, but I'm about to have a lot of leaks. Oh yeah. Well, this turned out really, really well. Wow. Let's get this inside. Good morning. There's been a lot of work going on behind the scenes. I've been doing a lot of prep work getting ready for spray coating. Now, we're going to spray the interiors of all these pieces, hopefully more than once. The weather is not exactly cooperating. I have all my areas taped off that I don't want to be coated, and that includes all my oak surfaces that are going to be highly visible. Why is that? Well, in arts and crafts and mission furniture, Gustav Stickley, he fumed them, and we have too. And then he applied a paste wax. Now that paste wax, it isn't a durable finish, but it doesn't really need to be, because when you fume oak or any wood, the color goes deep into the wood. You can take a nail and scrape across some of this stuff, and yes, it will leave a gouge, but it won't change the color. The color goes much deeper in than any other finish you can ever apply to a piece of wood. So I am comfortable with the fact that a hard wax finish that can be repaired is going to be just fine for the oak on these. Interior, we're using pre-catalyzed lacquer. That's a lot more durable. And on the inside of these cabinets, these two, doesn't need to be durable. These are drawers. Those are drawers. In the inside of this one, yes, I want some durability there. And the pre-catalyzed lacquer is enough for both this and the drawers. They don't take a lot of abuse. It's not like a tabletop. You put things in there and you take things out. A tabletop, that's where you need your heavy-duty urethane and polyurethane finishes, but not so much here. And the pre-catalyzed lacquer goes on great. It's smooth, it's silky, and it dries in about 15 to 30 minutes. You scuff it out, get rid of the nibs, go on to the next coat, and you're even better. So I think about 3 coats on the interior and exterior of these, and for the drawers, maybe a 4th coat on the interior of the drawers, and I think we'll be there. So that's the plan. Now we've got a couple of other things. I want to tell you about this. This right here, this is a neat item. You're going to see this, and I put all my drawers on this and keep them such that I get a good edge right there. I don't want to be in contact with that. I've got screws underneath that hold the drawer up from the bottom. I built this for another project where I had a lot of doors stacked up high, all oil-based enamel. And this is the type of thing that you can build too. And for this project, I went a step farther. I put it on wheels. So I'm very happy with that. We've got some work to go over on the bench. I got to get the guns set up for spray. So come on over, let me show you what we've got going on. Well, I've got my pre-cat right here, and I've taken the time to stir it gently, just to get all the solvents mixed into it just right. Now, pre-cat comes with a date. It has a shelf life, and that's part of the chemical reaction. Now, I use these tops on here, and they say not to. Fine, do what you wish. These work great for transferring the material from the can to the other can without drips, and I find that it is much better in preserving the material long-term than whatever detriment happens as a result of having solvents in contact with the rubber. Now, another thing, this stuff has some nasty VOCs in it, so I will be using a mask and I will have my carbon filters on here. So you can do what you want to outside. Inside, it's a whole different level because this is highly flammable, and if you've got electricity in the air, that's another issue altogether. With this stuff, I always paint outside. I do not have a paint shop that has explosion-proof fans on there, so that's the reason for that. We'll get set up outside and start spraying here in just a minute. Well, it's a hazy kind of hot out here today, but that's not what's really important. What's important is the humidity. We're down to 40%, and that's probably all right. As a matter of fact, that's real good. Keeping in mind I came from Houston. 40% would be a bone dry day down there. So I think it's okay to shoot. Now keep in mind, if you've got high humidity, pre-cat lacquer, just like shellac, just like regular lacquer, it will blush. And that is a serious problem. You're better off waiting for a dry day. Now I've got my rig here set up so that this drawer goes right on top of these two little pieces of plywood, and it's level. The ground isn't. I've got a couple of cinder blocks down here, but all that's good. That'll let the lacquer set up just right, and we'll give it a little time out here before we move it back inside. After they've had a little chance to tack up outside, we'll bring them in here. We'll do another couple of drawers. I've got room for 4 of them over here. And then we'll start alternating them out. I mean, we'll take the first one that came in and just put him on his end like that. By that time, the finish should be good and tacky, and we will be devoid of any opportunity for runs. Applying the drawer finish on the bottoms is pretty much uniform. Once you've done one drawer, you know how to do them all. All we're really after here is a good even coat, and that is to prevent moisture from entering into the wood. Wood will warp when unequal amounts of moisture enter into one side or the other. It's not the equal entrance of moisture. That's a fallacy. So if we finish the top, we really do have to seal the bottom to make sure that moisture is even on both sides. I usually give the trigger just a little bit of a bump to make sure that when I start spraying, I've actually got material coming out of the gun. But that bump doesn't tell you flow direction, so if you're going side to side, make sure you're set to up and down. If it looks like it's going on smooth, it is. That's one of the joys of lacquer. And the pre-catalyzed lacquer gives you enough endurance to make it useful for cabinetry. When it comes to drawers, I like to get into a pattern. That pattern's probably more important for the second coat than the first. I generally do fronts and backs first on the outside, and then I check my work. I do each side next, and I do pay a little extra attention to the top of the drawer box. That is an area that will receive a little bit more wear and tear than the others. From there I go to the insides, and I move all the way from one side to the next and then come around and do the other side as well. You want to keep a wet edge, and that isn't always easy to do inside a drawer box because the material is flying around everywhere. So be a little quick about it and make sure you don't have what's called dusting. If you think you're through after you're done the side to sides, you're not. You've got to do the long ways too. The inside of the drawer box does take the most abuse, and it will need the thicker finish. Don't forget the back side of the drawer. That's where all the little sharp things accumulate over the course of time. If you're going to test it for touch, use the outside of the back of the drawer. Nobody will ever see that. And we pick it up by the bottom, not the sides. The bottom is already done, and we can put it on the nails inside. Time for the next drawer. Well, I've got my little fan on in the background, and that's what you're hearing. That's actually pulling air out of the shop, and I got 2 windows open behind you. Despite the fact that we were outside in a very nice but hot environment, inside it is still off-gassing. So there's still quite a bit going on here. Now, this is an unbelievably smooth surface. I'm very happy with this. However, it does have nibs on it, and we're going to knock it down with some of this green here. I just knocked down the inside of that, and this is what I have. So you know there's a lot of stuff in here. So cleaning up this after the fact is critical because all these nubs will come right back again if you don't get this stuff out. So take the time. It hasn't been an hour, and this drawer is already dry enough that I can knock it down. That's why I like this stuff. So do take the time. Knock it down with some green, then take tack cloth and come back and clean it up. And then your second coat shouldn't have to be as thick as your first coat because you already have a finish on it. Well, while the lacquer is drying, I'm going to take the time to go ahead and get some of this Rubio monocoat. This is what I'm using for my hard wax. And you don't have to be too careful with it. The finish is deep, so little scratches, little abrasions, they're not going to make that much difference. So it's going to seem like I'm pretty rough with this, but again, at the end of the day, certain things matter, certain things don't. The oak that is in this drawer front is harder than what's on my bench. So there's concern and there's concern. So what I'm going to do, just sprinkle some of this stuff out here. And again, it's just pretty unceremonious. And a lot of times they'll tell you to roll it in with a scraper. For certain surfaces, I think that's fine. For a hand surface like this that's not attached, I think this is fine. Now, what I'm doing, I am rubbing against the grain because I want the wax to go into the pores. Oak is an open pore wood, so you want the wax to go into the pores and penetrate. If this was a maple, I would probably still scrub it this way, but it wouldn't be as important. Now, you'll also notice this lovely blue tape. Now, I'm very partial to blue tape. You may not be. It ain't gonna matter because the drawer front goes right there. You're never gonna see it. I don't care that I'm not getting a good coat on that part of it. It will never make a difference. Take time, just kind of rub it in. The difference is already alarming. Now I'm going to, and you can see how unceremonious this is. But that's the fun of a hard wax. You just don't have to worry about it as much. And the color, unbelievable. Now we're going to get every surface, and I'm saving the best for last. That's sapwood right there. Trick is just to work it in, get it in there. There's just a sheen on the surface. Now this is the money side. Now the difference between the fumed before and after you get this hard wax on there is remarkable. It was gray before, and as soon as the wax hits it, it starts to turn to a nice chocolate brown. Now, after we get it all worked in, and I've got a pretty good bit now because this is getting pretty saturated. You don't want it to stay. And yes, it's on my bench. And it will come off the bench when I'm finished. But it needs a little time to work in. And then once you've got it there, take yourself a rag. You start to take it off in the same order you put it on. Now, if you leave too much of this on there, it'll get sticky, it'll get gooey, and then you'll take it off anyway because you'll be tired of it. The accelerator that you put in here will let it be usable 24 hours from now. Something else. There you go. Now that was almost a greenish gray before we applied this, and now it is a beautiful chocolate brown. That's amazing. And the fleck just jumps right out. Well, I got a bunch more of these to go. I finished my chute, and the pre-cat is all done, and I've taken the tape off that masks off the portions here that get the hard wax finish. Now, ordinarily, I would be worried about sanding through the color, but the color goes deep, and I'm not worried about it here. That's part of the benefit from fuming. You can actually sand back and get yourself a good surface. Now, I'm going back with a 150, which is a little finer than the hard wax once, but that's just the way it is. And I'll sand down all these surfaces and then I'll tack them. After that, we go in and do our final coats with the hard wax finish. Well, just because all the finishes are done doesn't mean that we are. We've got a number of these undermount slides to put in place, and I'm really kind of pleased because all these holes have been pre-drilled. It makes it so much easier. I've got to drill the holes in the back of the drawers for these clips right here, and I've put a couple of shims in between. This is really pretty tight. I'm very pleased with that. And I push very hard against that. I'm gonna let the indentation in the wood define where that is. Now I'm gonna do this with a 1/4 inch bit. Drill a hole right there and right there. It may seem like overkill to use a drill press, but I know my holes will be crisp and straight. Also, if you got a full-size drill press, that's where lowering that table all the way down really makes a difference. I'm starting to look at the drawer hardware. This is the hardware that allows the drawer to detach. This is actually mounted on the drawer underneath side right up here. And you've got a lot of places you can screw it into, but quite frankly, this bottom piece right there, it's not thick enough to receive a screw, so we won't do that. But this front edge is, and we will be using these small screws to do that. Now, I'm going to be using these two holes right here, and if you look closely, they're slightly angled. So I will place this right in the corner, and of course I've got adjustments here that allow me to fine-tune after the fact. And in order to make sure that my hole is centered, again, I'm falling back on this Vicks bit. It has served me very well and continues to do so. Note the angle, and that's so that you can clear all this mechanism.
Many of you may be wondering what tool I have in my hand. Well, that is an old-fashioned screwdriver, and in this case, I'm the motor. I think that says it all.
Well, it's been a bit of time, and my finishes have dried out enough that I can handle them now. And I have installed the drawer fronts to these four right here, as well as the doors on the other cabinet over there. Installing these drawer fronts can be a little tedious. Come over here and let me show you how I do it.
I have the drawer front centered in the opening with a couple of shims, and I make sure it's tight with a couple of business cards.
This seam right here, it needs to come up a little bit, so we will take and we'll put a business card here and here as well, and just kind of look at it. And that seam seems to be about where we need to be. That's pretty good. I think we'll leave it at that. I have a 7/32 bit here, and I'm going to use these same holes right here to drill through. Now these are the holes that are going to come through the other side. That's what our drawer pull will mount on, but it makes a good temporary support for what we're going to do next. I have a nut and a screw here and a couple of washers, and I will use these to hold the drawer in place, keeping in mind that it's being held in place with the shims up front. I've got a 7/64 bit here with a flag on it, and that's important because we need to, let's go and take these out, we need to drill the hole to support the drawer. Now to do this, I have a little jig right here, and this is merely to give me the hole in a semi-consistent place. I just want to get enough to mark it. After it's marked, that's all I want to do. Now I can find that same hole and go through. If that flag moves, you know you've gone too far.
I've got a number 8 with a washer, and I've checked. It won't go through.
This requires some pressure. You do not want to slip off the screw. And do not do it too hard, because you can twist the head right off.
Despite all the trouble we've taken, the drawer fronts are still going to need to be adjusted for the perfect fit. This dial moves forwards and backwards and actually pushes a wedge up underneath the drawer and the mount, and that raises or lowers the drawer face. This dial moves side to side, and this one moves in and out. Between these three, we have good control over centering our drawer face, but keep in mind, we only have about 1/4 of an inch in each direction.
Now I will take a look at these and give the subtle adjustments for level later. There you go. Well, we're done with the finish and all the hardware is installed, and I think it looks great. I love the fact that the boards are synchronized going all the way across the drawers. It gives it a very, very polished look. Now I have one leg sit up there and it's balanced with a toothpick. That's for you. That's so that you can kind of see what I'm after here. And in other pictures, I think you've gotten the feel for it. We have a fumed oak finish with a hard wax over the top for protection. This is a beautiful piece. It's got that slightly matte finish that you would expect from old arts and crafts. It will only get better with time. On the interior, inside the cabinets, and inside the drawers, we've got pre-catalyzed lacquer, which is a beautiful finish and pretty strong to boot. Now, it's not going to stand up to foot traffic, but it doesn't have to. It's going to be just fine for the interior of a cabinet. So next episode, all this is going to be put together in the bathroom. The bathroom's not big enough to take all these pieces in connected together. That's why they're built the way they're built, to go up in a series of pieces. So that's what's in store for the next episode in Roby's workshop.